Hey everybody, Steve Bourie here with the American Casino Guide book. If you're not familiar with us, please be sure to visit our website at americancasinoguidebook.com. And today we're going to talk about Las Vegas. This is the topic today, the best places to play in Las Vegas. And joining us is John and Kristina Mehaffey. They have a website at vegasadvantage.com. And also joining us is also from the American Casino Guide book website, Matt Bourie, my son.
How's it going, everybody? And I guess let's just hop right into this. Tell us about your background and how you two got interested in gambling and casinos.
Well, it started for me in my teens. I played in a small poker game with friends and eventually grew into a bigger poker game. And so when I turned 21, I started going to Biloxi and picked up on other casino games away from poker. And then online poker came along. And so that was the first part of writing about gambling, was about the online poker industry around 2002 or 3. Mm-hmm. I first started playing in 2001, and we started our first business in 2005 with online poker. But in 2010, we moved to Las Vegas to work in that industry that never really worked out. And things moved over to the casino industry, where we started compiling data on the blackjack games and other tables. And Kristina has always taken care of the database. I go through the casinos, get all the information, and then we work together to put it together.
Oh, that's cool. And so how did it sounds like you had other websites before. How did this website get started? And tell us about its history.
Well, I left a job in 2018 and I bought the vegasadvantage.com domain, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. And then it all started when the poker room at Suncoast closed. I wrote an article and I couldn't figure out where to publish it. So I decided, well, now I know what to do with the domain. And it started out as just a blog. It didn't have any of this information on the table game information on it, because I was still doing that work for other people. And when everything closed in 2020, we started adding content beyond the blog. It started with the poker rooms, which ones opened and which ones did not. And we added sportsbook information at that time. There was a handicapper that was out of work that was looking for something to do. And so we got together with him and we started getting away from the blog. And by 2021, we moved the table game surveys to it. So now it's a more complete site beyond just somewhere I post blogs.
Right now, when we were doing the book, I was doing the book for 28 years, and Matt joined me in about the last maybe 10 or 12 years. We used to do an article in the book each year in the Vegas section called The Best Places to Play in Las Vegas. So I thought it was interesting that you have this site now that is sort of similar. And what we would do is we would say the best places to play blackjack, craps, roulette, video poker, slot machines, whatever. So it sounds like you're for people that are planning a trip to Las Vegas and they want to know where they're going to get the most value for your money, your site is an ideal place to go. And you have information there on table games and a lot of information. So let's start with what kind of information for someone's going to Las Vegas and they want to play blackjack. What kind of information can you give on your site?
Well, there are 71 casinos in Las Vegas now that have blackjack games. And I go to every one of them at least once a year, usually multiple times, depending on their size. And so if we list all 71 casinos, the minimum bet that we expect at the slowest time of the day, because we can't predict how it's going to be on a Saturday night. So the numbers on our site are more of afternoon times or maybe weeknights. And then we also have for the blackjack information, the double down rules, whether you can double down before and after splitting, whether surrender is available, whether you can resplit aces 4 times. Blackjack paying 3-2, 6-5. There's a few even money blackjack games out there. Oof. And then the high limit rule about whether the dealer hits or stands on soft 17.
All right. And then if there's somebody, what about roulette? Do you list single, double, triple, zero, all that?
I'm sorry, but just before we go on to that, I just want to ask one more question on blackjack. So now I think on your site, you offer a service to people. Do you put all that information on blackjack out there for free, or is there a paid service for some of it or all of it, or how does it work?
Well, we've had to play with the business model because trying to figure out what works. Right now we have a newsletter. It's for $9 and it's 64 pages of information that covers all the blackjack and every table game that we found in the Las Vegas market at these 71 casinos. And It also has maps, so of different parts of the city where we use poker chips, based casino chips, that as a legend on. If you look at the map, you'll be like, oh, well, there's the strip, and each casino will have a chip that denotes what games they offer. And so and then we go by game, or you can look by casino or part of town. So it's broken up the information into sorted as however you'd want to look for it. I'm in the neighborhood here, or I'm at this specific casino where I'm looking for a specific game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. And then, okay, so back to what I was asking is, what information do you have about roulette? Is it just minimums? Do you have other stuff?
It's the minimum bet, and then the location of them, and also the number of zeros. There's 4 different types of roulette games in Las Vegas. There's European roulette, which is single zero roulette with the La Partage rule and the different European bets. The La Partage is you get half your money back if you bet an even money and it lands on zero. And then there's single zero roulette, which does not have that rule. They just play the same. You just lose all your money if it lands on zero and you bet red or black. Mm-hmm. And then we also denote whether there's a double and triple zero roulette and the minimums of those. And a lot of times we've noticed that the double and triple zero roulette games will have the same minimum sitting next to each other on the casino floor. So we try to note to people that you might want to pay better attention if you're going to play roulette.
I've noticed that too. It's very, very, I never understood. The funniest thing is you go and look at the triple zero table has more people at it than the double zero table.
And they hide the triple zero in a logo on the table a lot of times. So you see the single zero, the double zero, and then there'll be the logo of the casino as the signal for the triple zero on the table too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny how people don't understand that the more zeros on the wheel, the worse it is for you as a player. Because I remember standing in the line of the casino, standing by the roulette table, and it was single zero, double zero. I think it was the old Riviera years ago. I think they had single zero.
They did, yes.
And there were twice as many people, I swear, twice as many people on the double zero wheel as there are on the single zero wheel. I'm thinking to myself, this is like having a buffet. And both lines are leading to the same buffet. And on one side, the buffet is $20. On the other side, it's $40. And they're all going to the same buffet. But there's twice as many people in the line wanting to pay $40 than there are paying $20. But that's the analogy I use for roulette all the time. It's funny. Now, what about craps? What kind of information do you have on craps?
Well, beyond the minimums, we also have the odds, the maximum odds permitted. The lowest in town here is double. And it goes up to 20 now because we no longer have 100 times craps because Cromwell dropped that. But maybe horseshoe will bring it back because all the other horseshoes have 100 times craps. Yes. So maybe that's part of the plan. So yes, well, most of them on the strip, all the ones on the strip are 3, 4, 5, except the strat, which is 10 times. And so we have those types of information. Also, the field is different between casinos. Some of them pay double on 12 on the field bet, and some of them pay triple. So we have that information as well. The strip's about 50-50. The locals market tends to lean triple on the 12, and the downtown's about 50-50. Mm-hmm. And we also cover whether there's crapless craps that has started coming out in town here. All of the MGMs have it, and a couple of the Caesars do, and Strat has it also.
Question on crapless craps. I think that was invented by Bob Stupak years ago at Vegas World. Do you happen to know that story?
Yes, that is correct. And the Strat has had that game, I believe, ever since. We've been doing the table game surveys for 10 years or 11 years now, and they've always had that game. And for a few years around 2018 and 2019, they had a monopoly on the game. And then it appeared at Harrah's and Luxor. And then after the pandemic closure, it started popping up at all the MGMs. And I believe it's also come to a couple more Caesars, Flamingo and Caesar's Palace, I believe.
All right. Now Matt likes to play craps. I don't like to play craps, but he's heard about crapless craps, but I don't believe he's ever seen the game. Can you explain what the difference is?
Okay. In crapless craps, you cannot lose on the come out roll. If it's a 7, you win. If it's any number, including any other number, including 2, 3, 11, and 12, it becomes your point, and you must make that number again to win your pass line bet. There's no don't pass, there's no don't come on that table because you can't bet against that because there's no dark side, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So I guess I assume that's a worse game, right? Since it's 11 doesn't pay on the come out.
If you don't take odds, it's about 3 times worse than a normal craps game. And the more odds you put out there, the closer you're getting to it. The 10 times odds, the Strat has 10 times odds for this, and everybody else has 3, 4, 5 times. The 10 times game is almost comparable. I believe it's within about 1/10% if you went 10 times on both of them. But the variance, imagine going 10 times on 2 and 12.
Yeah.
You
No thanks.
got to bring a lot of money to the strat to play that game and survive the swings on that.
Yeah. All right. One last question on the table games here. What do you put for Baccarat? Because Baccarat is pretty much standard everywhere.
Right. And so we only collect the information about the minimum bets there. And sometimes there's multiple versions of it. There'll be one in high limit and there will be one on the floor, like a mini and then maybe a midi. And the big tables seem to be gone virtually, or maybe they're just hidden from sight. And so we don't denote the difference between the games, only the minimums, because there are some no commission games out there. And some of those, you have to get too close to those tables to get a lot of that information. I'll tell you that the players there don't like that very much. So I try to leave them all alone.
Okay, now what about some of the more carnival games like 3-card poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and stuff like that?
And so we do collect every game that there, even if there's just one installation of it in town, we do get that information and we put it in there. In the more popular games, like 3-card poker and Ultimate Texas Hold'em, they have their own page on our site with some of the rules on how to play. We don't cover the side bets. I know the pay tables and the side bets change here to there, but a lot of these casinos will only have one table of it. If it's active, it's kind of trouble to go and bother the game, and they'll change them sometimes. Especially the side bet there's a new side bet that refelt the table. And so to try to keep up with that would be a full-time job.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering, is if you had the pay tables, because I know it sounded like a lot of work, which is why I was curious if you were doing it.
We spend about 100 hours getting this information. I think if we added side bets, we might even double the amount of work it would take to publish it. It's in some casinos, like for blackjack, we'll have 3, 4, 5 different side bets within their casino just for blackjack. And it could I've tried it before and I got 3 or 4 casinos in and thought, well, I'm just not ever going to be able to do this.
Yeah. And then what about Pai Gow poker?
Well, there's been a huge change in the last couple of years, especially because of the pandemic. A game called Face Up Pai Gow Poker hit the floors 2018, 2019, maybe. And it was already the majority of the Pai Gow tables before the pandemic closure. And when they reopened, a lot of the dealers and houses didn't want players to touch cards. We even saw games like 3-card poker being dealt face up. And so many of those Fortune Pai Gow games went to face up. And then the Emperor's Challenge version, there's an Emperor's Exposed now. So there's two different types of face up games in the market. 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 of the Pai Gow tables in Las Vegas now are the face up version of it. And oftentimes when they aren't open. Like if they have 2 of one and 1 of another, the only 2 tables be open with the face up one. And if you asked it, when is that one going to be open? Oh, it might be open on the weekend or something. They try to really push all the action to face up.
That's what I was going to ask, is the face up. Because what's interesting about that game is the casino here. We're near the Hard Rock in South Florida, and they only have face up. And, I had always heard that crapless craps was a worse game. But interestingly enough, the face up Pai Gow is actually a better game than the regular Pai Gow, which I was very shocked by, because casinos don't normally put in better games for the players.
Well, that is true. However, it's a faster game. And so their hourly rate on that table, I believe, is going to be more in their favor because, if the dealer comes up with an ace high Pai Gow, the hand's over. We don't even have to worry about the players. Also, they don't have to ask the dealer, how would you set this hand? Because they're staring at the hand they need to beat. And so there's a lot of the things that slow down a traditional Pai Gow game are just not happening on this face-up version. And so I believe they've increased the number of hands per hour, at least by that house edge difference, to make it more in their favor.
And I saw they added that they have the second, well, I don't know about in Vegas, but here they have a second side bet where you're betting on whether or not the dealer gets an ace high Pai Gow, which I just assumed, I'm sure has an astronomical house edge. And that's where
I haven't studied that one, but the original no commission Pai Gow was a queen high Pai Gow was what they pushed on. And it happened every 57 times and they only paid you 50. And so, was that a 14% house edge or something? And I imagine that this ace high Pai Gow one is going to be in the same range.
Now, we've talked about the table games here. Now, if people want information on where the good video poker is or the best place to play slot machines, do you have any advice for them there on your site?
Well, for the slot machines are too tough for us to really cover because it's hard to look at a slot machine and determine how it's weighted and what its payback is. And so we've kind of shied away from trying to do those things. What I believe is the most accurate information there is that some of the casinos will post their payback percentages and they cannot be dishonest about that. And it tends to be these old coin slot machines like Circus still have some that say up to 97.4%. And I think that those old coin games, El Cortez has a few. There are a couple at Skyline Casino. Those probably are the best bet, because over the years, that's from talking to people that work in the industry, as they went more electronic, the edges went, they went more video, the more the house held.
Right.
You got to be careful about those signs, though. It's that up to that gets
right.
you.
Exactly. Yes.
They could have a whole bank of them, and only one of them is set to that high. They always got to look out for that fine print.
Right. And video poker is much easier to determine because the cards have to play like a randomized deck. And so what I do is I go up to a video poker machine and look at the pay tables on it. And I have done this long enough to where I can look at them and say, well, I know that 9-6 double bonus game is 98.98%. And so that's how I rate the casinos on video poker. I've just given up on trying to figure out slots.
Right. Well, for years, we always tell people that vpfree2.com is a great place to go if you want to find out which casinos have the best video poker. Well, I just didn't know if you had something on your own that gave more information in Las Vegas. And for slot machines, for years, we always put slot machine payback statistics in the book. We did them for all the gaming jurisdictions in the United States that released it. And we still have links there on the website. If you go to our site, AmericanCasinoGuidebook.com, it says on top slot payback info. You click on that and I'll take you. Now we used to do all the, over all the reports from all these gaming commissions and do the work and put it in the book. But since we got wiped out with the book by COVID and we don't do the book anymore, we just put a link to the gaming commission. So if someone wants to go there, they can get a link to the Nevada Gaming Commission, look at the reports themselves. But for years, it has always been that the locals casinos had better paybacks on their machines than the downtown casinos, and the downtown casinos had better payback statistics on the strip casino than the strip casinos. Would you still agree with that? Do you know?
Yes, I do believe that. I think from the video poker side of this, the Boulder Highway area is the top market, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. You have Sam's Town over there and Arizona Charlie's. Both of them have full pay Deuces Wild. Arizona Charlie's has also full pay Joker. They go up to 50 cents a denomination, where Sam's Town only goes to quarter. So that, to me, and the other Arizona Charlie's on Decatur also has those games. And so you go to some of the value locals casinos, and I believe when they have good video poker, I often tend to believe their slots must be better and their Keno pay tables are a little better. If they're, I think if they're giving you a deal on overall in video poker, you could expect a better deal on their other games too. The table games often reflect that as well.
That makes sense. Yeah, my rule of thumb that I tell people is the fancier the casino, the tighter the machines, because they got to pay for that fanciness somehow.
Yeah, that is almost always true. On the strip, though, one thing I like to tell people is if you want to play $5 denomination or $25 especially, then the strip is definitely where to go. Because if you go to the locals casinos and you play their high denomination, they're often worse than their $1 games are. Mm-hmm. So there's a curve there at the top that comes down in the locals casinos where the strip just keeps getting better as you bet more.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And then now, okay, so we've covered pretty much any kind of game in a casino. What about sports books? Yeah, what kind of Steve and I we that's the one form of gambling we never really touch on is the sports book. So we don't really know much about handicapping or any of that. But like, do you list like any of the other stuff they have? Because there's a lot of different things sports books can have. So
yes, and so that is a bit out of our expertise also. And during the pandemic closure, we had a handicapper and professional sports bettor get bored, and he wrote this content for us that we've kept somewhat track of, but I need to go back through there and make it better. It covers the mobile platforms that they use, the contests that they run, the different properties at each sports book. So we don't cover Red Rock and all their individual properties. We just say, here's the station sports books and here's the Boyd sports books. And They all have the contests that run together. And so they'll have the Beat the Pros, or they'll have the weekly NFL contests. And so we try to get the circuit contests, Westgate. So we kind of keep track of those features that these sports book offer. And also whether they tend to take large action or whether they're more just small for the locals.
Mm-hmm.
I was intrigued by all the information you had in there in the sports books. It was very detailed. But again, we're not sports bettors, but I've read about it, and we did do an interview once with someone on sports betting, and so I was intrigued by all the information. It was very detailed. That was very good. And you seem to have a lot of information on poker rooms. What do you do there?
Well, poker is how I got started in all this. So I've always had an interest in it, and a lot of the people who follow my work over the years are interested in it. And I had the idea when the casinos were all closed, the people would want to know which poker rooms had reopened, because there were 31 in Las Vegas before the closure, and now there's only 19. And so we kept track of, in the first day, I believe there were only 4. So every week or two, a new one would open, and then we got up to that number. I think we got to 21 at one point before Caesars closed a couple of them. And so that information that we have is, whether they're open, the types of cash games they offer. Mostly it's no limit hold'em. Some places do offer limit hold'em or Omaha. And then whether they have tournaments or not, and if they do, here's the times, here's the buy-in, here's the games, what promotions they're running, how much rate they take out of the pot. So that's basically what's on our poker pages. And everyone that's open in town, we have a listing for it, except for one that's only open on Fridays and Saturdays and only has one type of game. We couldn't write enough about that, so we just have it in our directory.
And now I guess one last thing is, I see that you have the trip reports on your site, which are pretty cool. Do you write them all? Do you have people submit them? How does that work?
Well, I've written all the trip reports, and I've tried to put out there that we would be happy to buy trip reports and publish them or whatever, but people tell me that they want to do that, and then I never hear from them. So they're all written on by me. We have other sites that we've asked to try to get content with, and during the closure, I put out there when everybody lost their jobs all at once. And hey, if you're looking for something, and I only got the sportsbook person was the only one I heard from. So, we're open to the ideas if it's quality work and it fits into what we're writing about, but it often doesn't work out.
And I like your trip reports too, because it's like not just like some people write a trip report about just one casino they went to, but you sort of write about the whole evening. I saw one you did recently about the Pinball Hall of Fame. I love that place. I tell everybody, anytime somebody asks me what should I do in Vegas that's not normal, I'm like, Pinball Hall of Fame.
Have you been to the new one yet?
No, I haven't been since they moved it, and I heard it got much better.
Yeah, it's at least twice as big.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
A lot more room. You don't feel on top of each other when you're in there. It's not cluttered. It's much better.
Oh, it's awesome. All right. And I guess one last question we have here is, how do people find out more about you and your work?
All right. Well, our flagship website is vegasadvantage.com. Its Twitter handle is Vegas_advantage. We also have a Facebook page that is Vegas Advantage, is one word. And this where we post our latest work and things that we find along the way. Sometimes we don't write an article. If we just find something interesting out there, we'll tweet it out or post it on the Facebook page.
All right, John and Kristina Mehaffey from vegasadvantage.com. I enjoyed visiting your website. You had a lot of great information out there, and we encourage people to go and visit it. Thanks very much for joining us today. And thanks very much for watching, and best wishes for good luck in the casinos.